Good morning. Welcome to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and we're broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios, serving Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina. We call this region in Virginia Hampton Roads. Then you may know the Outer Banks. That's if you're tuning from somewhere else around the country. And we're happy you're here if you are, because here on the Weather Desk, we not only cover our local weather and local impactful things, but we also take a look at what's going on across the country and sometimes around the world. Today, we're going to focus a lot on what's happening in Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina, as well as things happening across the country, because we do have another opportunity for some more snow later tonight. Now, we're going to break all this down. Let's get into the topics we're covering. And each and every day we cover the top weather headlines. Some of these will include the fact that we've got what we call a weather impact alert. And that's just giving folks a heads up that there is the possibility of snow. I generally think the snow is going to be pretty light tonight. I'm not too worried about that. But the National Weather Service does have a winter weather advisory for our region. So we've got this weather impact alert just to give folks a heads up. We'll break down what those impacts are in just a few minutes here. Now, we're also going to discuss issues that are lingering from the earlier storms. We've had two storms. This is kind of a third round of potential for snow over the last couple weekends. We've had a couple of storms, and that has left parts of the region from D.C. dealing with all the ice they've had. We got additional snow over this past weekend across parts of the area, and there have been some ongoing issues. So we'll talk about those. In addition, we're going to take a look at what's going on down in North Carolina. You know, we had some overwash issues. We'll talk about NC-12. We're also going to look back at Norfolk's January. You know, it was so cold over the back half of January, but there was actually some warm weather you might have forgotten about. Because we've been in this deep cold push of air for the last couple of weeks, it's kind of easy to forget that we were at one point into the mid-70s here in Norfolk. We had what people were celebrating as an early taste of spring, but winter came back with a vengeance. As we take a look, we've got more cold weather impacts across the country. We'll show you places down south where they're reeling, including some bits of nature. We'll say manatees, for instance, finding some warmer water. It's kind of interesting where they're finding it. So we'll talk about that along with some other cold weather impacts across the country. Then we're going to address the big question: how long will the cold last? I'm going to show you the outlooks for kind of a longer term and when things should start to break with this pattern, and some good news. We got to end on a good note. There is some more sunshine during the week ahead for the Mid-Atlantic region. So I'm really excited about that. I think we're all ready for some sunshine and eventually some warmer weather, but it's going to take a while to get here, as you will see. All right, we're going to start off with a look at our weather impact alert, and this is really for this evening through early tomorrow morning. The chances for rain mixing and then changing over to snow, pretty good that we see some showery activity pushing through. Now, over the last day or so, the models are kind of pushing 1 inch to 2 inches. It's okay, you get 2 inches, that's enough that, you know, we really need to be mindful. Keep in mind, though, yesterday's high was 48 in Norfolk. The ground is much warmer than it was when we had the previous round, where we had all that light, dry snow across the area. In this case, some of what falls tonight is going to melt on contact, and I think some of the places where we might see a little bit of snow accumulating would be on grassy and elevated surfaces. Still, there could be some slick roads after dark this evening through tomorrow morning. And I do want to talk to you about that winter weather advisory. You can see how much of North Carolina under the advisory. The concerns out of Raleigh that they would actually see some ice accumulation down on the roads. It doesn't look like it's going to be a tremendous ice situation down there. I'll show you the European model, kind of what it's projecting, but they may have some sleet or ice accumulations in a few spots down there. Certainly we'll be watching for that. For Hampton Roads, we are under the advisory, and it's not so much for ice. I think we're going to see some mix. There might be a little bit of sleet off to the west and southwest mixed in, but it's basically that transition to snow and maybe some minor accumulations. Now, honestly, when you look at like the criteria for a winter weather advisory, I think we are going to be on the low end of that. As a matter of fact, I placed a call out to Wakefield right before the start of the show. And Wakefield's where we have our National Weather Service office. And I said, you know, are you guys seeing anything that I'm missing here? Because to me, it looks like this is a lighter event. They said, no, you're absolutely right. They're seeing the same stuff I am. It looks like this is going to be, again, a light event on the low end of the criteria for the winter weather advisory. But still, there might be a half an inch to an inch of snow on some of the grassy areas. And there could even be a little bit more in elevated spots. So we're not dropping our guard on this. I do still encourage you to check back for updates, but we also don't want folks thinking, oh my gosh, we got to run out and get ready for another round of heavier snow. That does not appear to be the case with this system at all. You take a look at what's going on. We do have some snow showers showing up out there around the Richmond area and out to the west, some light snow showers out around, or rain showers rather, out around Blackstone. We've also seen a few sprinkles down to the south. If you watched yesterday, we talked about the potential for rain showers early this morning with maybe a little bit of mixing overnight to the north. We saw all of that. Temperatures have remained above freezing for the Hampton Roads area and for most of southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. There were a few spots off to the north that got down to about 32 degrees. So right on the cusp, just enough to allow a little bit of snow to mix in with some of the light rain. But really, it was not a big deal this morning either, and we knew that one wasn't going to be. We will be watching to see what we get later tonight. Now, we're going to jump straight into the forecast here, and I want to start off by showing you this is just one model here. This is the graph, and you can see again it's kind of hinting there might be a isolated flurry off to the north, but nothing big here. Temperatures upper 30s for the most part around Norfolk. We'll see some low and mid 40s down to the south. So again, the ground is warm. We are going to see temperatures falling as we go through the overnight, and it's going to be a chillier day tomorrow with highs expected to be in the lower 30s to mid 30s. That's about it. So it will turn cooler. Look for some rain showers to develop this afternoon down around the Albemarle Sound. This graph model doesn't really project too much for Hampton Roads. As we go through the evening, some showers start to increase, and eventually you'll start to see maybe some snow showers mixing in. This is around 8:30. So it's possible. Again, the ground is warm. Some of what falls will be melting on contact, but elevated surfaces, maybe decks and handrails, some things like that, you might see a little bit of snow sticking in some spots if we get some heavier snowbursts. I really think the transition to snow will take place later in the evening and early tomorrow morning. And where you do have a couple of these snowbursts coming through, it may add up to a little bit. Again, a half an inch, say a heavy coating up to an inch or so, a possibility. And there might even be a spot or two with a little bit more. Can't rule that out to the west. But again, it's just not looking like a whole lot of snow with this. So we're going to continue to watch for this. This may change. I will tell you, honestly, it seems like most of the models are actually trending towards less snow, the ones that are just now updating and coming in. So we're really not too worked up on this, but we do want to make sure folks know that you may see a little wintry weather later this evening, and then it moves out early tomorrow, pre-sunrise. I think we're going to see skies becoming partly sunny later in the day on Thursday, with those temperatures much cooler in the lower to mid 30s. So let's take a look at that ice potential, mainly down across North Carolina. Not really seeing problems here in Hampton Roads, but a little bit of ice, maybe around Greenville, less than 1/10 of an inch. This is a European model, and again, it's a model's output, but it really isn't showing a lot here. So I think they put out that winter weather advisory really out of an abundance of caution. They don't want people getting caught out on the roads with any type of icing situation. At this point, that is such a light amount that it really wouldn't create too much trouble at all. But it is something we're watching, and again, it may change a little bit, so stay tuned for more. Now, as we take a look at some of our various models here, we'll start with the European model, and the Euro is still producing a little bit of snow down here, maybe an inch to an inch and a half. It projects to fall. Not that all of this would stick. Some of this would melt as it falls. But you see how the Euro says, okay, maybe you see an inch, probably less, but maybe up to about an inch across parts of the area. Grassy surfaces, elevated areas. You've heard me say that, what, 3, 4, 5 times now? Those are the areas where it's most likely to stick a little bit overnight. The GFS, which is a U.S. global model, really not buying into it, saying, hey, probably maybe a dusting in some areas, but not a lot going on with the GFS. It does produce about a ½ an inch out around Emporia and back towards Ahoskie. The NAM model here, this particular version of the NAM is producing up to about 2 inches, but this is the outlier. And as I took another more detailed look at the NAM, a higher res NAM, we were looking and it was more like an inch or less around Norfolk, and you just had a little narrow band down across southern parts of Chesapeake and right along the state line that had a slightly higher chance, maybe 1.5 inches or so. I think this one's a little overdone. The models have been trending lower. So again, hear what I'm saying. Yes, there's a possibility we could see some snow. We are not calling for a snowmageddon. We're just giving folks a heads up. Roads may be a little slick overnight, and that's why we have our weather impact alert. Now, as far as the forecast of the snow potential, this is pretty much what I'm thinking. Again, minor amounts, less than 1 inch across most of the area. Most of the area probably will see maybe a dusting to a ½ an inch, but there's going to be this area that could see anywhere from, say, a ½ an inch on the ground to maybe 1 inch, high end, 1.5 inches, maybe a spot or two, closer to 2, but that's about it. So we're talking about like this much on the ground, enough that we want folks to be mindful, but it doesn't look like it's going to present a lot of trouble, not as it looks right now. Now, I've said this, and I will say this again, and when we had the winter storm warnings previously leading into last weekend and the episode before that, when we say, hey, check back and see what the updates show before the snow gets started, this is still going to be a good, 12 hours out before we start to see this stuff forming. If it does, in fact, come on in, there's still time for the models, which update all the time, some of them every hour, some of them every 3 or 6 hours. We've got some more runs to kind of pin down whether this is going to be even less than this or a little bit more. So check back. Don't come back and say, oh, well, you said it was going to do this or that. This is how it looks right now. And again, as we get a little closer, it may fluctuate a bit. None of the models are projecting anything major here, but this is kind of how it's looking right now. We just want to work to keep everybody kind of updated on what the latest thinking is. Now, the precip type, we're pretty confident there's going to be some rain to mix during the late afternoon and early evening, and then likely we'll see that mix changing over to snow showers as temperatures drop towards the overnight hours, and by sunrise, as it's all pulling away, it will be colder. As far as the snow totals, I said the models are varying. None of them are producing heavy snow, so we're confident this isn't going to be a major event, but as far as whether it's a ½ an inch or a dusting or you miss out on some areas might get 1.5 inches or so. We'll continue to refine that. As you take a look, the timing on the precipitation, pretty high confidence. It's going to start later as we get into the evening and then move out by sunrise tomorrow. That's looking very consistent based on how things have been updating. Now, as we take a look at the region, right now we do have, again, a little bit of light snow to moderate snow showing up in some snow showers across central Virginia. And this next developing system, you see the moisture down to the south. As we have the chances for snow, this system is coming as parts of Virginia and North Carolina are still cleaning up from the weekend winter storm. In northern Virginia, the roof of a church collapsed in Alexandria. Now, this was likely due to the weight of all the snow. The video is from our sister station, WUSA, in Washington, D.C. Officials say no one was in the building when the roof collapsed. Thank goodness. In North Carolina, the weekend storm didn't just bring snow to the Outer Banks. Overwash forced NC 12 to shut down for several days. Crews worked around the clock to clear water and sand from the highway and reopened it to drivers yesterday afternoon. But as you can see, there's still some standing water on the road. This picture was taken near Pea Island early this morning, so drivers still need to take it slow. You take a look right now, and we are getting a few rain showers down there, but NC 12, which runs right along the Outer Banks, you can see the conditions there. They build up, they prepare for it, but there was still that overwash. It was a mess. You see, there's a motorist moving along. These pictures update every so often. Every few seconds, we get an updated picture. All right, as we take a look across the entire state of North Carolina. It's western North Carolina that is still digging out from all the snow. And Ryan Stockett shows us how people near Asheville are doing days after the storm.
Madison County 911, where's your emergency?
Operators answering calls at the Madison County 911 Center. County Manager Rod Honeycutt tells us that during the first 24 hours of the winter storm, they had a significant call volume increase because of road accidents. Now he says the storm's passed and the emergency call volume has gone back to normal. Still, they have concerns about some of the secondary roads that haven't been cleared yet.
On some of our secondary roads, you're going to see those stranded motorists, especially when you get up around 3,500 foot elevation.
That same sentiment was shared by other drivers we interviewed, like Marshall resident Brian Coomer.
I mean, the roads are treacherous right now. I mean, there's no two ways about it. They've had a hard time keeping up. I mean, that's a lot of snow.
Well, the biggest concern that the county and residents shared with us were the roads. Secondary roads are still covered in snow and ice. Another concern that people shared with us was having enough supplies, whether it be propane, ice melt, or feed.
And we've sold a lot of propane here shortly because of the big snowstorm and all that, and selling a bunch of feed.
Remington Webb works at Silver Mill Feed, and he says they've run out of propane and ice melt.
And we've had phone call after phone call, people asking if we've had propane, and we just had to tell them no.
But something they do have plenty of right now is feed. We spoke with Coomer as he was picking up feed for his animals, and he says that the winter weather does make caring for his animals a little difficult.
Things like their water freezes, you have to constantly get them fresh water. They eat more just to try and stay warm, and it's a constant battle with the temperature and the snow in their pen and things like that.
All right, you can imagine the difficulties out there with the snow and the cold. We have had a really cold stretch. It started in mid-January. It's been cold for quite a while as we're rolling into February now. We're going to take a short break. In 2 minutes, we're going to come back, and we're going to look back at January here around Norfolk, and we'll talk about what's next, what you can expect. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. You can see the first 3 days of February here in Norfolk have been below average. All blue days, and guess what? We're going to see a lot more coming up for the next week and a half or so. It looks like we're staying below average. I'll talk a lot more about that coming up. You know, this serious cold that arrived actually started in January, and if you were just around for the end of January, you're thinking, wow, this must have been one of the coldest Januaries on record. Well, believe it or not, we had some Days earlier in the month that were well above average. Don't just take my word for it. Meteorologist Taylor Stephenson takes a look back at the temperature trends we saw last month.
After spending 132 hours at or below freezing starting at the end of January, it may be easy to assume that January 2026 had to be one of the coldest Januaries ever in Norfolk, but it doesn't even crack the top 10. Here's why. Although we did have a bitterly cold end to the month, the start of the month felt more like spring. On January 9th and 10th, temperatures rose to the mid-70s. In total, we had a combined 12 days of highs in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. January's average high temperature was 48.6 degrees. The average temperature of all the high and low temperatures was 39.8 degrees, which is about 5 degrees warmer than the 10th coldest January in Norfolk. Overall, though, January 2026 was 2.4 degrees colder than normal. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
All right, so January wound up a little bit below average, but not near the top 10 coldest, that's for sure. All right, we're going to take a bigger look across the country. A lot of folks still reeling from the cold. We'll talk about what's going on across the country after this break. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and this is a look at the high temperatures from across the country yesterday, February 3rd. You can see Phoenix up to 82, 75 in L.A. San Francisco, 64. You know, the Bay Area, so excited to host all of the big NFL activity leading up to the Super Bowl on Sunday. They've got some pretty pleasant weather out there. Down along the Gulf Coast, you can see temperatures in the 70s, and it's looking pretty good. Even Orlando at 64, not sounding too bad. Atlanta was at 60. It was still chilly in the Northeast, but not as bitterly cold as it has been. New York City, 33 degrees. 48 was the high yesterday in Norfolk. Across Tennessee, a little bit milder as well, and that's a real blessing because folks here are still reeling. This morning, some people in Tennessee have entered week 2 without power. They've been in the dark since that ice storm crippled the power grid more than a week ago. Nashville Electric Service says the lights are back on for 90% of residents, but as Amanda Roberts and some residents say, that's still not acceptable.
In North Nashville off Whites Creek, a slow, rural pace is what makes home, home.
All kind of messes. Yeah, I really don't know what to do about it.
But preferring a slower pace does not apply to getting their power back.
We need all kind of help out there we can get.
Generators power some homes. Ice is still thick on the drive, and trees and branches are only just getting cleared. Ice is still so thick in some places, bucket trucks can't get where they need to go. The only way this crew helped repair a connection was to climb.
Since they've been here, I guess they've been working, because that was a mess up there. You know, it's all a mess.
Lonnie Lehue called us, angry and frustrated by yet another day without power. He is going on day 10, and his zip code is not expected to get power back for another 3 to 5 days. He cautioned there were still power lines and branches down around his home, so we spoke in the driveway.
I think I had my first breakdown a couple of days ago.
And after spending nearly all the money he and his wife saved to travel on hotel rooms, he has run out of patience.
I spent about $3,600 down at Vanderbilt downtown. She said I can go hotel. She's getting up. But you know, I mean, she's worthy of that. She's been there for me, thick and thin, mate.
Decades of marriage, and she is the reason for his resilience.
She's happy. As long as she's happy, I'm happy. And that's the main thing for me.
It's why he needs power, so he can bring his family back home.
Hopefully they'll get that power restored soon. Now, the cold weather isn't just impacting humans. Take a look. Frigid temperatures killed thousands of fish in Texas. The striped mullets, which are mostly used as bait, floated to the surface of Laguna Madre following the last winter storm. That's a lagoon near South Padre Island. In South Florida, temperatures have been in the 30s for days, which in turn has dropped water temperatures. That's why more than 200 manatees flocked to a natural gas facility in Lake Worth Lagoon. That releases warm water. Now, the manatees could develop a life-threatening condition called cold stress when water temperatures drop below 68 degrees. Those manatees obviously flocking together to stay warm. Also in Florida, you've probably heard about this. A prolonged cold weather can also cause reptiles like iguanas to temporarily lose muscle control. It's not unusual for them to appear frozen and even fall from trees. One company tasked with collecting the cold-stunned animals says they've picked up more than 1,500 iguanas in Broward County since Sunday.
They don't die, so they'll just slow their heart rate very, very slowly. They go into a hibernation state. Once it warms back up down here in South Florida, they'll slowly warm themselves back up and become active again like nothing ever happened.
So wild to see that. All right, keep in mind, green iguanas are considered an invasive species. They're native to tropical areas in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. All right, we're going to take another short break in 2 minutes. We'll be back with more on how long this cold weather, this cold stretch, is going to last. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. You see the thermometer symbol here. Let's talk cold weather across Hampton Roads and how long this chilly air is going to be with us. Take a look back on January 22nd. Norfolk, ORF, hit 60 degrees officially at the airport. That was the last time our weather was above average. Now, remember, we had that 132 to almost 133 hour stretch of temperatures that were at or below freezing. That was one thing that came to an end. The next thing that we had come to an end was the stretch of days that was below 40 degrees. We checked that one off yesterday when we hit a high of 48. That 48 still below the normal high, which is now 52. So we are likely going to stay below average for a continued stretch that could last 22 days or longer. All right, we'll take a look ahead and start off with the next 10 days. So if we go through the remainder of this week up through the 14th there, that's going to be a stretch of 22 days. And right now, as we look out there, we're going to come close Tuesday or Wednesday. If it's a little bit warmer than this projection, we might end that streak a little bit early, but right now with the official forecast looking out there, we're probably going to be close to maybe a little bit below average. So really cold through the weekend, and then as we get into next week, there is relief coming, but the temperatures likely staying a little bit below average. How about beyond that? Well, you take a look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, and we'll take a look first of all with the rain. You can see wetter than normal conditions returning to the west. They've had a big break from all of the rain that they had for so many months that they were dealing with. They've been dry for a little while, so they're going to swing back to a wetter pattern. A little bit wetter back in the central U.S. Here we should be close to average for precip along the East Coast and drier than normal for Florida. Temperatures are what you want to see. Let's take a look at a pattern which is changing. For the first time in a while, they're going to be back below normal on the West Coast, and we're going to start to swing warmer. This is out the 12th through the 18th. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to be pretty close to average, maybe just a little bit on the cool side for that time leading up to the 14th. The 15th through the 18th, that's when we should swing back up above average. And when you average all those highs and lows over this time period, the 12th through the 18th, we will likely finish up a little bit above average. But you see the warmer weather that is starting to spread eastward. We're ready for the warm up, and it looks like beyond that stretch projected to be anywhere around 20, 22 days, something like that, we should actually swing back up above average. I know it's been a long time. January 22nd, the last time it felt warmer than it should. We'll see. Eventually, you know, we got to get there. Right now, we're looking at a few showers off to the north again. Not a real big deal here. Some light snow showers up around Richmond and back towards Farmville. It is dry across the metro and most of northeast North Carolina. Some showers down to the south there. Temperatures across the region will top out around 40 in Richmond. They, again, seeing a few light snow showers this morning. Some rain chances down around Hatteras, New Bern, and Raleigh. Snow chances again later on out towards Roanoke. Some rain around Charlotte, Columbia, South Carolina, and out towards Asheville. As we take a look at our local conditions here, temperatures right now are in the upper 30s to near 40. So I think that's important to think when we talk about the snow potential for later this evening. This is warming up the ground. So surface heats up when we get the snow coming in or the rain mixing with a little bit of snow into the evening. A lot of what falls will melt. So again, I'm not expecting to wake up with a lot of snow all over the place, but there might be a coating to say a half an inch or even an inch across parts of the area. Some locally higher amounts not out of the question, especially inland and right kind of along the state line between Virginia and North Carolina. As we take a look at the ocean front, looking pretty flat right now, but small craft advisories will go up later tonight. Winds are north just 6 miles per hour at Norfolk International, 37 degrees as we check in with the Thompson Creek Window Company and that sky view. Now, I mentioned the winds are going to build later today, and tonight it's going to get gusty, so small craft advisories will go up. Seas are pretty flat, as I just showed you with that live sky view, but they're going to build later today and tonight as well. Low tide comes at 5:03 this afternoon. Forecast today across the region, temperatures around 40 in Norfolk, we'll say upper 30s to near 40, 42 in Virginia Beach, 42 in Franklin, 43 in Suffolk. May see a few rain showers before sunset, mixing a little bit of that potential out to the west. I think eventually after dark, we've got a better chance at some mixing. A few stray showers, rain showers or snow showers possible to the north. Upper 30s there again. Light activity, not expecting too much today. And down south, you've got the chances for rain this way. I do expect some showers to kind of fill in around the Albemarle late afternoon and early evening, and then we'll see that transition later on. So we do have the weather impact alert for that winter weather advisory we've been talking about. Mixed to snow again. Snow showers, minor accumulation possible. Doesn't look like a lot, mainly elevated and grassy surfaces. We could see a coating tomorrow. Any leftover snow showers end very early, probably around sunrise, and then it becomes partly sunny. Take a look at the 7-day forecast. Here you go. The temperatures will be chilly tomorrow. Morning lows around 30, up to 33 during the afternoon. We'll see a high of about 41 on Friday, and then mid-30s Saturday and Sunday. Let's take this full because I do want to show you one more time. We'll take a look at the winter weather advisory and what we're anticipating again across our area, and we'll talk a little bit more about the snow before we wrap up the show. If you're just now tuning in, we do have the winter weather advisory and the weather impact alert. The concerns will be that this evening we could see a little bit of rain changing to mix and eventually to some snow showers. Roads are going to be slick potentially after dark and overnight. We are not looking for a lot of snow here, and the winter weather advisory, again, we're barely making it into the criteria for this. So this is not expected to be a major high impact event, but there is that chance that there could be a few slick spots. That's why we're talking about it. You see the winter weather advisory does include Poquoson, Hampton, Newport News, all of the south side, all the way up through Isle of Wight, Southampton, Franklin, even Emporia included in that, as well as Greenville County. So just want to give you that heads up. Down into North Carolina, Gates County, Hertford, Bertie, Northampton, North Carolina, out through Roanoke Rapids, and then areas off to the southwest. Now, as far as the conditions go right now, we're dry around the metro. That light precip is off to the north. As I mentioned, we're going to see the chances for a few showers to develop late, and then the chances for some snow showers to mix in. You can see again how we get some of that mix, and there might be some periods of snow through the overnight down there to the south. We're going to be watching for all of that. Certainly something to keep a close eye to. I'm going to pull up the new graph and just see what this new latest model is projecting as far as snow, because it looks like we just got an updated graph, and you can see with it coming in, again, not a tremendous amount, up to about a ½ an inch. Now, when we talk about the models and how the models change, I want to let you know something. You know, we talk about this yesterday. This model, this very model, was showing 5 inches around Franklin. Right now, it's showing 0, nothing sticking. So that speaks to how much they jump around. You know, as meteorologists, we look at this stuff and we say, okay, there's going to be a lot of variability. You'll want to keep checking back. We were never projecting anything close to the 5 inches this model was showing, but it just gives you a sense of how crazy these things can look. So realistically, probably a coating on the ground, say a ½ an inch. Some areas could see a little bit more, and the NAM model was projecting some slightly higher amounts up to about 2 inches. We'll take a quick look here, and that's still, 1.9 to 2 1/4. That's with the NAM, but that's the outlier. You can see the GFS very light, and again, the Euro showing maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches, some of that melting on contact. So again, this is the kind of hand-drawn outlook that I put up earlier just to show you basically maybe a ½ an inch to 1 inch, or a little bit more than that, maybe up to 1.5 inches in spots. Grassy, elevated surfaces, less than that for most areas. And again, I think this is kind of the way things are best looking right now. Continue to check back. We will keep you updated. Remember, it's a great way to stay in touch with the latest news, traffic, and weather. What am I talking about? The 13 News Now mobile app. Scan that QR code. It's free. It's available at Google Play and on the App Store. You can check it all out. Again, lots of great information, and our team here at 13 News Now will work to keep you updated on everything going on as we get more modeling data in. We'll certainly let you know. Again, we do have the weather impact alert for this evening and that chance for a little bit of wintry weather. After that, things looking pretty good into the weekend. It's going to be chilly, but we will see a lot of sunshine. And then next week, temperatures starting to trend up a little bit. Still a little below average, but hey, we'll take the warmer weather, anything we can get. All right, I want to thank you so much for joining us for today's edition of the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Be sure and stay weather aware and check back with 13 News Now, and we'll keep you updated as the forecast continues to evolve.